Right now, go live. All right. I hit the button, which means we are live. I hope so. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, right now, the man with the million, back again with another podcast, Xbox 2, on a Saturday. Our apologies. Not my fault this time. I'll introduce the culprit right now. Obviously, my co-host,
No.
Jez Corden of Windows Central. What is going on, buddy?
Hey, pal. Sorry about yesterday, guys. I was just really tired after Microsoft decided to drop some massive news in the middle of the afternoon as I was winding down. And then I was just like, man, I am exhausted. And if I did the podcast yesterday, I would have been half asleep through it. So I thought, you know what? Let's push it back a bit and do it tomorrow. And it's a good job I did, Rand, because in the middle of the night when I was asleep, what happened?
Yeah.
Microsoft did a 180. So if we had done the podcast yesterday, the people who were listening to this on iTunes or whatever in the middle of the week would have had to listen to a whole load of rage about something that was going to be completely outdated. So in a way, it's a good thing that we delayed it this week.
Yeah, it was actually one of those times where it was beneficial because, like you said, we would have recorded the podcast. We would have been all angry at Microsoft about the doubling of the price of Xbox Live Gold, and then it would have been like essentially, a podcast full of wrong information for anybody listening later because Microsoft. Well, we know what happened, and we're going to be getting into all that. Later, a little bit later on, not that later on, really, because it's obviously the big focus of the podcast. But how's your week been?
Week's been good, man. Obviously, yesterday was a lot of fun. Huge traffic.
Yeah,
boost.
how huge? How huge? Tell the people.
It was massive.
Tell the people how huge it was.
It's like the coverage on that Xbox Live Gold thing was like the second biggest article I've ever written for traffic. Second only to Scalebound being cancelled.
Scalebound being cancelled is the biggest article of Jazz's career. And think about that. The funny thing about that is that nobody really well, I'm not going to say nobody. I mean, no. Obviously, people cared about Scalebound. So when I say nobody, I'm being facetious. But nobody cared about Scalebound until that game got canceled. And it's true what they say. It's true that negative news always gets more clicks, easier, faster, quicker, whatever way you want to say it, gets shared more often than positive ones. So, like,
yeah, it's true.
It's a whole thing, not only in, like, your line of work, Windows Central opinion pieces, things like that, but especially in YouTube, where negativity seems to draw in the crowd because you have this very negative thing about Xbox, which draws in, the Xbox fans who want to know what's going on with their platform. So it gets clicks from that, but then you also get clicks from, like, PlayStation gamers who just really hate the platform. So they're gleefully clicking on everything and watching stuff. For whatever reason, negativity drives engagement a lot more than positivity. And it's a shame, but that's kind of how I think that's maybe just our the way humans are just wired, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe that's just the way social media works. Like, people are more willing to share out something they hate or attack it. And if it's something they agree with or they're positive about, they don't really, like, say anything about it or something. It's just like, it's weird.
When it's like negative news, like, you get everyone sharing it, like people who hate Microsoft, people who love Microsoft, people who, like, just tech pundits who are just, like, baffled by this. And Xbox Live Gold is like such a huge thing that it's like a staple feature of the wider gaming ecosystem. So, like, mainstream press would have picked up on it eventually if Microsoft had just sort of ignored it and the backlash went on across the weekend. You probably see, like, the BBC and stuff covering it on Monday in their tech sections and stuff, like they covered the Cyberpunk thing. But it is what it is, and that's what people love, to people love to hate, I guess. But thankfully, they did a 180, and now, as soon as they did the 180, everyone stopped clicking. So,
Yeah.
the feeding frenzy was over. So, like that. Oh man.
Yep.
So human beings are a funny old thing.
Shout out to Old Taco for the super chat. He says Microsoft can't sell Game Pass by devaluing gold, and we will get into that all huge discussion in a little bit. But we'll talk a little bit about the games we've been playing. So if you're ready to join the podcast, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And this one, the game segment here shouldn't be too long. Can you talk about the games you're playing, Jez, or are you like under media blackout?
I'm in a media blackout. I've been playing a game I can't talk about this week, and I will talk about it on next week's podcast. You can probably guess what it is.
Is there a game that comes out next week that is? I wonder if people could maybe just look at the release date and see what game comes out next week that maybe Jez could talk about next week.
Yeah, maybe. Other than that, I haven't really played much this week. Just sort of been playing the game I can't talk about and getting through my workload. So yeah, that's been my boring week. I haven't played anything really. Kind of sucks. Have you been playing much?
Yeah, actually, I have been. So I am. So the game I'm playing is Hitman 3. Came out, and I'm sure you saw the reviews for it, right? Pretty good reviews for Hitman 3. People calling it the best Hitman game in a long time. Even Digital Foundry. I mean, the whole graphical comparison. Did you see any of this stuff about the game with Digital Foundry?
I didn't watch the graphical comparison, but I saw people talking about it and throwing shade on PlayStation about it and stuff like that. It's quite funny to me.
So, apparently, it's the first game to really have a quote-unquote significant difference in resolution between, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. I guess the Series X version is 4K, PS5 version is 1080p. Both run at 60 frames, and I think there's one instance where the Series X version drops frame rate in like a certain part. So there's been a lot of celebrating because this is what people expected the Series X to do before the system's launch. Like people, we've heard about it for the past year. Like, on paper, the Series X is more powerful. The launch games really didn't show that. Some games Xbox was better. Some modes and some games were better on PlayStation. We've heard the back and forth, and I don't really follow that stuff too much. I mean, it's just interesting to see this stuff kind of brought up. And then I did see somebody yesterday someone made a YouTube video to try to show that the Hitman 3 version drop frames all the time on the Series X, which was hilarious because if you just watched the video, you could tell it wasn't dropping. Anyways, enough about how the game performs or if it's better than the PlayStation 5. The game itself is absolutely incredible, Jez. Have you played any of the Hitman games? Have you played 1, 2, or 3 at all?
I played one briefly. For some reason, it either didn't click with me or I just got distracted onto something else. And then when Hitman 2 came out, I was kind of like, well, I got to play Hitman 1 first. And now Hitman 3's here. I'm kind of like, well, I got to play Hitman 1 and 2 first. So I ended up not touching any of them really. And it sucks because I do like them, but I need to go back. It's one of those backlog of shame things. But
yeah. So so Hitman 3 is like a launcher, right? It also contains Hitman 1, all of Hitman 1, and all of Hitman 2 as well as Hitman 3. Now, of course, if you just buy Hitman 3 and you don't own 1 or 2, you won't be able to play 1 or 2 in Hitman 3. But if you have purchased Hitman 1 and 2 before, they are playable within the launcher, and they have all the engine upgrades and advancements that were this game has. So when Hitman 1 came out in 2016, it was, I don't know the resolution, but it ran at 30 frames. Well, if you play Hitman 1 now, which is what I kind of started with, I'm going to go through the games in order, Hitman 1, 2, and then 3. Hitman 1 runs at, what I assume to be pretty close to 4K resolution, if not native 4K. But the big thing about it is it runs at 60 frames, and it's like locked. The game looks incredible. So I played it so far for about 12 hours. The game's amazing, Jez. Like it is just a sandbox game where it's like, here's this level, here's your targets, go get rid of them however you want to get rid of them. Now there are some story threads that you can kind of enable, like they call them mission stories, where you can kind of get rid of some of the targets in a very fantastical way that you can kind of enable in the menu, and that it will kind of guide you to areas where you might have to disguise yourself. So there is, because I know a lot of people will get into it and you got this big open level and it's like, take out the enemies however you want. And a lot of people will just kind of fumble their way through, and maybe, they'll get spotted and they'll have to take out some guards and stuff like that. But if you follow the mission stories, at least you have like a structured way or path to potentially get to some of the targets and take them out in pretty incredible ways. So I've done a few of the levels, and it's not only you play through the level once, but there's so many different avenues of stories and how to take them out, and different challenges on how to assassinate all the characters, that I find myself going through each map and playing it multiple times just to see the different ways and how things play out. It's awesome, and I can't wait to keep on continuing and talk about Hitman 3 itself next week on the podcast. But like right now,
what interests me about Hitman 3 is because like they've pretty much definitively said it's the last one, right?
True, but their next game is 007, which probably is Hitman 4. You know what I mean?
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Their next game is James Bond, so
it's kind of like I don't know. It's like this is because Hitman. It felt kind of like Hitman 1 and 2 maybe struggled a little bit, and then like Hitman 3 is the one where it's got all the acclaim and maybe it's going to do better than before.
Well, they've already said
like, this is the one they're gonna.
I think they already said it's the biggest launch for the Hitman series. But it definitely seemed to have struggled. You remember when Hitman 1 launched, I believe Square Enix had dropped them, right? They used to be owned by Square Enix. IO Interactive bought their freedom, or however they got out from underneath from Square. They became independent. They essentially have a license to use the Hitman franchise from Square Enix. I know there's been a lot of debate among gamers if Square Enix sold the IP to IO Interactive. No, they didn't. You can look up the trademarks for Hitman. They all say Square Enix. I am pretty positive the Hitman franchise is just licensed out by Square Enix, and IO has the exclusive license to use the Hitman games. And then
it's sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, and then the second game, Hitman 2, was picked up by Warner Brothers. And then after they published it, they dropped the publishing rights for for Hitman. So this game, Hitman 3, is actually self-published through the ID at Xbox program because they don't have a publisher. It's very interesting. They went from Square Enix to Warner Brothers to independent self-publishing.
Yes, I was going to say that, but you said it anyway.
Yeah.
So I was surprised because I saw Hitman 3 come through ID at Xbox, and I was like, wait, what? Because all the PR for Hitman 3 came through Square Enix. So, but that's really strange. Like, Square Enix handled the PR for the game, but IO self-published it. That's really strange. I've never seen that happen before, I don't think.
Yeah. You definitely should play the game whenever you get a chance. It's awesome.
Do I need to play?
You don't necessarily. The only thing you really need to play is the prologue, which is a tutorial, so it tells you how to play. There is an interconnective story, but it's not like this isn't Last of Us, where story's the most crucial or one of the most crucial elements. There is a story interconnecting them all. It's so you don't necessarily have to play Hitman 1 and play Hitman 2 to enjoy what's going on in Hitman 3. Just play the prologue, get used to how the game controls, what the game wants from you, and then go kind of play the first level in Hitman 3 and experiment. And if you do want to go back to other levels, you can. You know what I mean? So
Fair enough.
yeah, you don't necessarily have to. If you're one of those people out there that's like, hey, I didn't play Hitman 1 or 2, I might be lost in Hitman 3. I would say just go for it, especially if you like stealth games, because we don't get games like this anymore, really.
I just it's almost like an OCD thing. Like, I feel like I own 1 and 2, and I've never played them. And if I play 3, then it means I'll never play 1 and 2. I don't know. I feel like I feel like on some level I have to go back and play those other games.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I feel
we are getting, we are getting another stealth game. Perfect Dark, man.
That is true. Perfect Dark. Can't wait to see what the gameplay of that game actually looks like. Can't wait to see what the gameplay of all the Xbox Game Studio games look like. Maybe sometime later this year, instead of the CGI trailers that they gave us. Right? I'm looking forward to that.
You're not a fan of CGI?
For the original announcement, it's fine. For any other kind of after that, not a fan. I want to see the gameplay. I want to see what it looks like. You can do kind of like a fake gameplay thing. I'm not really a fan of that, but I kind of want to know what the game is going to look like, right, when I play it. Which, fake gameplay. I mean, we're talking about CD Projekt Red and all that stuff that came out. Like, I think I watched whose video did I watch that popped up on YouTube that got recommended to me? Crobcat, his video about Cyberpunk and all the glitches and lies and stuff. I watched that and I was like, eeks, like this is. But then I see today Cyberpunk got a patch and it broke the game again. It has a game-breaking bug for a mission.
It does?
Yeah. 1.1 has some game-breaking bug that they're going to try to hotfix. So. Yeah, Commander Seppard with a super chat. He says, have either of you played Jedi Fallen Order with the recent Game Patch update for new-gen consoles, Jez? Have you played Jedi Fallen Order at all?
Yes. We talked about this a while ago.
Okay.
It was in the run-up to... In the Xbox Series X review program, one of the games I played most was Jedi Fallen Order, because it had the unlocked frame rate stuff, right? And it just performed much better on the Series X, and it was something that I could very easily demonstrate the power of the Xbox Series X with. Like when you do side by side comparison, you do frame rate tests and stuff. It just performed way better on the Series X without an update. But I haven't tried it since it got the update. But I'm gonna load it up now, because why not?
Because why not? Because you get to play games while we do the podcast, and I'm over here at my computer while my Xbox is across the room. But no, I haven't played it. I played it in the review process, and it was great to see the game performing at 60 frames, pretty much solidly locked on the performance mode. I think the update moved it to 1440p on the Series X at 60 frames, and a full 4K 30 at the the native the resolution mode. This game is something that needs to be played in performance mode. This action type game, kind of like a Dark Souls action adventure. These games are so much better at 60 frames. I don't know how people can play them at 30. I mean, I said the same thing about Spider-Man, Miles Morales. I played them both. I was like, all right, I'm playing in 60 frames. It's amazing. And then you go play it in 30 frames, and it's absolutely horrible. It ruins the experience. So you go back to 60 frames, and you're like, this is the way. This is the way. And then you hear people being like, I like the cinematic feel of Spider-Man at 30 frames. And I'm like, how? I mean, I guess maybe if you've never experienced a 60 frames difference, so you're like, ignorance is bliss. But I don't see how anybody could play both modes and being like, yeah, I like the 30 mode better. It's like, that's absolutely bonkers and mental to me, man.
Bonkers and mental at the same time.
Bonkers and mental, yeah.
So I'm loading up Jedi Fallen Order now. Then what did that change? Did that make it 4K?
Yeah. So it was 1080p 60 in performance mode. Now it's 1440p 60 in performance mode. So they bumped up the resolution.
Performance mode.
Well, that's the one you should be playing, because that's the one that's at 60 frames. So.
Okay.
The other mode is, I think, native 4K 30. RDX Son of Fett says MVG should put PS3 emulation on RetroArch. Let me get through a couple other of these comments here. Got to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. We got Hazador. We got the Dazinator. What's going on, Daz? Hope you're doing good. We have Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, the one and only Enrique in the house. 9 Lives, Painted Gamer, Joshua. I see you, everybody in the chat. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Face23 BKNY says, did you try the Resident Evil 8 demo? I haven't tried it yet. I might try it. I'm not really in a hurry because it's just from what people said, kind of more of just kind of a visual demo, not really any combat, just kind of exploring the mansion and seeing the sights. I did see there's supposed to be another more meteor demo coming later. I'll definitely try it out at some point, but I've just kind of been busy really loving Hitman. I cannot sing the praises enough of that game. I think it's incredible. Even Mock is here. Wow. Even Mock, and he's calling out my gameplay of Doom Eternal. Of course.
Is it bad?
I don't know if it's bad. I didn't care. I was just like, I need an hour of footage. I'm gonna record some Doom Eternal and whatever. You want to see some bad gameplay? You should check out his full game walkthrough of Doom Eternal. You know what I mean? Talk about awful gameplay. TB says, do you think Digital Foundry does more damage to the gaming community than being useful? Do their video comparisons give the fanboys ammo to feed the stupid console wars, thus feeding the negative narratives? So, on the surface of it, I think Digital Foundry does a service. They're just presenting the facts of here's what the game is on each of the platforms, here's what it runs at, and it was especially useful during this past generation when there was differences in frame rates or resolution. And if you're somebody who owned multiple consoles and you wanted the best version, you could make an informed decision based on what Digital Foundry was saying. So you could spend your money on whatever version was best, if that was your prerogative. However, of course, fanboys will take their findings and use it to prop up their system of choice, whether the PlayStation or Xbox, or basically, shit on the other one. That's not so I don't blame Digital Foundry for that. That's just the fanboys, using what they say as ammo, and if it's not Digital Foundry, it'd be somebody else. So I think they do a service. I think they're good at what they do. It's just that fanboys will fanboy, right, Jez? Unless you have a disagreeing thing than me on this. What do you think about Digital Foundry?
I mean, I agree that they do a good service and stuff, and they literally do just present the facts, and nobody else can do what they do to the level they do it at because they have proprietary technology for some of that stuff. But it's like, I think sometimes it's kind of like, man, do we really care that PlayStation 5 renders slightly fewer frames than the Xbox Series X on random game and stuff like that? Like, personally, I don't care at all. And but it's kind of like, it's not their fault if people make it a fanboy thing. It's humanity's fault, really. Can't really blame them. They're just the messenger, right?
That's true.
So, and plus, Digital Foundry does so much more than just pixel count and frame rate count. If you go into some of their deep dives on the tech, they're not just talking about comparisons. There's some of the stuff they do is really interesting and really insightful. The people who are running that site really know their stuff. So yeah. I don't know. To sort of focus on the comparison stuff kind of detracts from their expertise and what they do in other ways. So
yeah, they talk about how developers implement technologies, and they share their findings with developers. And even I remember watching one of their videos about Gears. I think it was Hivebusters, where they talked about how they had shared something that was wrong with Gears 5 to the devs at the Coalition, which they then fixed in the Hivebusters release. And it was something that Coalition either didn't notice or, when Digital Foundry brought it up, it was something that, this is something we need to fix. It's just like you said, the fanboys, will use Digital Foundry to be like, hey, Series X is the better, and the PS5, fans will use them whenever they have a game that wins. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of stupid if you ask me. Let's see what else we got.
Jedi
here.
Fallen Order looks stunning.
It does.
By the way,
it does, and it plays great.
Yeah, like with the patch I've got downloaded. Like I was playing it on 60 frames 1080p before, and it was super smooth, but now it like looks crisp as well, which is a huge boot.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see what Respawn does for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2. Because even though Ubisoft is now doing a Star Wars game, I believe LucasArts have said they're still going to continue on with their partnership with EA. Not exclusively, but they're still going to let LucasArts is pretty much going to let anybody who wants to make a game make a game. And Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sold a shit ton, if I remember correctly. Like way more than EA had anticipated, which prompted, I think, Vince Zampella to get promoted within the company. And there are some parts of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order that are a little bit janky, that could definitely be improved for the sequel. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go in and how that game improves. And especially with whenever it does come out, it's probably going to be next gen only. So you won't have to worry about cross gen because this game came out late in the Xbox One PS4 generation, and it definitely has those moments where you got to squeeze through something so it loads. Maybe they can get rid of some of that stuff on the next gen consoles. So I can't wait. I really, really like that game. So I can't wait to see what they do with it on a sequel. Cowhand Super Chat says, hi, any hints on announced Xbox games this year? Well, this is your question, Jez, because you mentioned 2, at least, which I used in a video, by the way, so thank you. You said that, personally 2 unannounced games for 2021. He's asking for a hint. Are you going to hint?
Nope.
No hints, okay. We don't want more articles written about you. Every single week, it always seems to be something Jez Corden says on this podcast that gets written about, right?
I did say last week that I wasn't going to hint because any hint would just ruin the announcements for the devs. So you just have to wait. And also, I'm not sure that at least one of them isn't an unannounced. I think.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
You have to wait and see.
Living Flame says, last night was the fastest character arc ever. Yeah, it was pretty fast, wasn't it? Tony Art says, sup guys, hope you're doing well. Pretty hyped for the Medium. We're doing pretty good, and I am excited to check out the Medium. I really loved Observer, and I thought Layers of Fear was okay. I didn't play Blair Witch, but from what I've seen of the Medium, looks like it'll be a game I enjoy. So I'll be interested to see what the reviews will be like when it comes out next week. The first, Xbox Series, next-gen console exclusive. It's only on the Series X and Series S, and it's on PC. So we'll see. Hopefully it's a good game. RDX says, you think Microsoft did crappy PR yesterday to make today's announcements sound way better? We're going to talk about that, but the short answer to that is hell no. Jez, have you noticed some of that stuff? Have you noticed? Like the conspiracy theories surrounding the announcement of the whole game Xbox Live price increasing. How people are saying this was all just a big conspiracy, and Microsoft planned it this way so they could look good. Man, we'll talk about that in a minute because Jez is obviously enjoying the spectacle of Fallen Order. So Mumbles Speed Talker says, listen to your podcast while I work. Appreciate to hear both your thoughts and speculation on Xbox and gaming in general. Well, thank you for being here. It's really awesome that people. I get messages all the time from people saying that they listen to us while they're at work or they're working out or while they're driving around doing errands. Shout out to Lord Cognito of the Iron Lords podcast, which. Apparently, that's how he always listens to the show when he's driving to and from. Funchito says, I was secretly hoping for Microsoft to announce another acquisition this Monday to soften the blow after the gold price hike, one day before the earnings call. Yeah, you would think if Microsoft was going to pull off this horrible move on a Friday that they would want some really good news essentially the next week. but I doubt it'd be an acquisition. And there is an earnings call this week. Maybe we hear that Xbox has hit over 20 million Game Pass subscribers, or about 20 million. I doubt Microsoft is going to acquire a company until the Bethesda stuff closes, and who knows when that will be. And Gungrieve with the emoji super chat. Thank you. And thank everybody for being here. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button. Edward King says, you saw the report that id Software is doing a VR game. I was linked that earlier today. I was going to ask Jez about this. Jez, did you hear about this thing about id Software's next game is VR related in some manner?
I was muted. I didn't realize.
You were muted, yes.
Yes, rip. I didn't intend to be muted. But no, I didn't hear id Software's next game was VR related.
Yes.
I wonder if it's a VR version of one of their existing games, though.
It's I think it was it was classified in Australia. Let me see if I can bring it up, and I'll send it to you. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So, id Software is working on a VR game codenamed Project 2021A. Here, I'll send this to you, so you can take a look at it. Maybe you can write an article on Windows Central and be like, "What is this?" Or somebody could write an article on Windows Central. So essentially, it's classified in Australia as an R18 plus rating, and it says it's virtual reality. That's the media type. So who knows what that could be?
Doom Eternal VR, maybe? They did Doom VR, remember?
That is true. I mean, I guess that's possible. I couldn't. Well, maybe it would be their next project, but I mean, your initial guess is maybe Doom Eternal for the VR.
Yeah, I mean, Doom. They did it for Doom 2016 or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised.
Andy Tolley says, Jezbro, where the living F is the Bang & Olufsen Xbox headset?
That is an interesting question. You know, I'll just email them. I might have an email for them lying around somewhere. Let's just email them.
Yeah, just do that. Just email them. See what they say.
They'll probably say, "Who the hell are you? And why are you emailing us?"
That's right.
And I'll be like, "I'm emailing on behalf of the Xbox 2 fans who want to know what's going down." And they'll be like, "Oh my god, that elite podcast! We better tell everything that they need to know." You know.
Edward King says the same. Edward King says the same thing as we just did. If it's 18 plus VR game, maybe it's Wolfenstein. So yeah. Anyways, moving on from the games played stuff, let's talk about the topics. And I'm gonna start with a little soft one here to lead into the stuff about Xbox Live, and that's essentially Game Pass and Fall Guys. Did you see what happened between Xbox Game Pass and the Fall Guys account this week?
Yes, I did. That was bit weird, wasn't it?
Another Xbox PR making some mistakes here. So somebody on the Xbox Instagram account was asked if, they basically said, "Hey, I want Fall Guys to come to Xbox Game Pass." And the Game Pass Instagram account says it's coming, prompting, of course, everybody to basically say, write articles. Windows Central, I saw your article go up like 2 minutes before it was debunked, saying, "Hey, Fall Guys," which was one of the big surprises of last year, an exclusive on PlayStation, on PC, free with PlayStation Plus. Basically, everybody's excited that it was going to come to Xbox and Game Pass, and then Devolver Digital came out and said that wasn't true. And not only did they say that it wasn't true, but they said they have no plans for it to come to any form of Game Pass, meaning console or PC, and that was it. So what do you think happened here? Do you think somebody made an honest mistake and kind of thought they were talking about Fall Guys, or thought they were talking about Among Us and not Fall Guys? Or do you think it could potentially be a scenario where, like Phil Spencer said, what was it, like over a year ago, where he said Control was going to be coming to Game Pass, and then Remedy was like, "No, it's not," and Control went to PlayStation Now first, and then a year later it came to Game Pass. Maybe one of those early announcements that gets people in trouble and pulls stuff from it. So, what do you think? And I got somebody at the door, Jazz. So take some questions. I'll be right back.
Ah,
It
man.
won't be long.
Rand leaving me high and dry. Well, I will. I'll talk about Fall Guys, I guess. I don't know what exactly went wrong there. Maybe it's like Rand says that Among Us they got it mixed up with Among Us, like the trending game sort of thing. Um but I don't know. I don't really have any information about that. But I kind of feel like Rand's suggestion that they announced it early, would the Instagram social media guy know that Fall Guys was coming in the deal, or would that be like high level sort of thing? Like when Phil Spencer leaks Control, that's because Phil Spencer knows. But would the Instagram guy know? I don't know. I personally don't think so. But who knows? I'm just going to grab this super chat as well. Can we talk about what you guys think about the future of Xbox Live Gold? Do you think it will change or be dissolved? If changed, what would it look like? That's from Titus Lofton. Thanks for that super chat, buddy. Future of Xbox Live Gold. It's funny. It's funny, right? Because when this whole Xbox Live Gold thing blew up, a couple of people tweeted me and Jeff Grubb, and they were like, "Oh, you guys said Xbox Live Gold was going to go away and multiplayer would be free," which is funny because I personally never claimed that was going to happen. I'm not sure if Jeff Grubb did, but I certainly didn't claim that was going to happen. I did predict that it might happen, but I also said if it does happen, it's not going to happen anytime soon. And personally, honestly, I do think that Xbox Live Gold and the multiplayer paywall will eventually go away. But I wrote a whole editorial about this last year. I don't think Xbox Live Gold will go away until Xbox Game Pass penetrates new markets that Microsoft isn't currently in. So, like, using Netflix as an example, right? So, like, Xbox Game Pass is at a million subs now, I think, or something. Netflix is currently at 200 million subscribers. Xbox Game Pass goes to TVs as an and it goes pad and it goes, and then we eventually get devices that are like more like handheld, and it blows up in India and blows up in South Korea and blows all these where Microsoft currently doesn't have a presence. Extra revenue used to subsidize the removal of Xbox Live multiplayer paywall in the future, because a lot of the users in those markets, they'll never own an Xbox console, and obviously if you've got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you don't have to pay for Xbox anyway, and it just comes with xCloud. So I don't know. You are breaking up, Jizz. That's not good. Now, am I still breaking up? Oh man, this is good. If I'm breaking up and Rand is not here. See, I think it might be like... Oh dear. See, there's nothing I can do about me breaking while Rand isn't here. Hang on a sec, guys. Testing. Am I still cutting out, guys? It's okay now. Jay's streaming through a 2G network. Man, I don't know. It's kind of tough when I'm like literally talking through Rand's connection right now, and Rand isn't here. Seems better. Good. That is good. Lucas. Lucas Jagerskog, if I've pronounced that wrong, I apologize profoundly. What do you think of the Vicarious Vision news? Vicarious Vision are the developers of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Crash Bandicoot, right? And for those that don't know, Vicarious Vision are a dev that made Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remake, 1 and 2 remake, and also the Crash Bandicoot remake. And did they also do Spyro for Activision? All of which were very successful. But they've now been rolled into Blizzard. So presumably, Vicarious Vision will now be only making Blizzard games, and apparently the rumor is that they've been working on a remake of Diablo 2. I have it's, I don't know, it's kind of strange, I guess, but also kind of not strange. Like, they've kind of run out of games that they can remake on that end. I mean, what else would they remake at that point? I guess. I don't know. We have to like sort of wait to see what they do with Blizzard. I mean, they're obviously a really good dev, but I don't know. Man, I really need Rand to come back now. I'm just like talking to myself. Rand said, he literally said, I won't be very long. This is long, man.
It's not
This
long.
is really
It's
long.
not long. It's not long whatsoever.
Thank God. Thank God.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Can you not
Dude.
do this, Jez? What's up?
I can't do this solo, man. What are you talking about?
People love you. I mean, you do hashtag Ask Jez, right? Or is it
It's
because
true,
you're
but
just
that
not,
is
you're just not
heavily,
live?
it's heavily edited. You know, I took a couple of super chats. We talked about Vicarious Vision. Did you hear about this news?
I did.
Vicarious
Very
Vision.
disappointing. A lot of people really liked Vicarious Visions and the work they did with Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 1 and 2, as well as bringing back Crash Bandicoot for Activision. And now
Yeah,
they're what?
indeed.
They're just basically going to make Blizzard games now, essentially?
Apparently, the rumor is they're doing Diablo 2, so, you know, I guess we just have to wait and see what they do. You know, I kind of like, I like the idea of a dev that kind of caliber making Blizzard spin-offs, because, you know, there's kind of like a lot of Blizzard IP that have gone wasted, like StarCraft, for example. Like, StarCraft is like a perfect IP to make a third-person shooter or something like that. And you know, they were gonna do StarCraft Ghost. Remember? Do you remember that whole thing?
I do remember that. Yep.
Like, but they just didn't pan out. I'd love to see them put like StarCraft into a shooter sort of category. That'd be so sweet. But it can't be worse than Blizzard's previous HD remake team after the awful remake of Warcraft 3, which yeah. Were you aware of that whole debacle with Warcraft 3?
Yeah, I mean, who cares about Warcraft though, right?
Oh my god, I hate you.
Did you read this one from Devin about free-to-play games not requiring gold, and how Nintendo and Sony should offer cloud saves for free?
I think I missed that one.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I mean, each one has their own, like, for a long time, Microsoft's biggest, like, anti-consumer thing, I guess people love to throw out the term anti-consumer, was that that free-to-play games weren't free on Xbox, where they were on Sony and Nintendo. But then Xbox has cloud saves, and they're free to everybody, but on PlayStation, I believe you need to be a PS Plus subscriber to use them, and I'm not really sure about Nintendo. But then on PlayStation, anybody can use Party Chat, but on Xbox, Party Chat is required to have gold. So you need gold for Party Chat. Yeah. So they each have their own kind of things or whatever.
It's funny because, like, with Nintendo, not even all of their games have cloud saves. Like, certain games just don't have it. Straight up just don't have it. You know, it's only certain games that have it. Nintendo's online services are just garbage for it, man. Like, I'm sorry. They are terrible. Nintendo is just so bad at online stuff. They're just so bad at it. It's really weird, you know, but I don't know.
Edward
just
King
their
says
thing.
Xbox aren't going to give up hundreds of millions a month all of a sudden for gold. Either they're willing to take a big hit or the revenue streams need to rise. And
Yeah,
Titus
I
says,
mean, sorry, go on.
if you think Xbox Live will be dissolved eventually, do you think Microsoft will want to replace it with something else for Game Pass Ultimate, or do you think the community won't see it as devaluing Game Pass Ultimate?
I don't.
Go ahead. You go ahead first.
Sorry, go on. Well, like to answer the first question, like there was another super chat and I discussed this a bit while you were away, but it is totally about getting an alternative revenue stream. I think when Xbox Game Pass hits a certain number of subscribers with users, especially users that aren't on console, because a user that isn't on console but does subscribe to Game Pass, the app or a PC or an iPad or whatever, they have such better margins than a console user. So like that will offset the loss from getting rid of the multiplayer thing, which can give them a really great differentiator against Sony in the console market. So I still genuinely believe that one day Xbox Gold paywall, Xbox Live Gold multiplayer paywall, I do think it will go away. But it's probably not going to be for years. It's not going to be until Xbox Game Pass hits critical mass and can replace all the lost revenue, like that dude said. And then if you think Xbox Live will be dissolved eventually, do you think the community won't see it as devaluing Game Pass Ultimate? I don't think so. I mean, people don't really think like that. I don't think someone's going to think, oh, well, we're paying this much, like, shouldn't you lower the cost or whatever? Because, like, the reason it'd be going away is because people are paying for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I don't know. I don't really see it like that. And also, they're constantly adding value on top of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Like the whole Disney Plus thing and all the trials they add and, you know, stuff like that. I don't know. I personally wouldn't see it as devaluing. I'd see it as like, yeah, this is cool. This is like going to bring more console users in. That's like healthy for the business and stuff like that. I think most people would see it that way. At least I would. I don't know if you feel differently about it.
I mean, to answer the question that Titus is saying, I definitely feel, and I still feel that Live Gold will be, or the multiplayer will be dissolved in eventually. I did say that in my prediction video for this year that free to play would be changed, and it is changed. And I did say that while I do believe gold is going to go away at some point, I did say it definitely wasn't going to be this year, and probably not next year at this point. Like what Jez said, I do agree that there's a number they want Game Pass to hit before they consider getting rid of multiplayer. How that's going to work out and eventually, I don't really know. But since we're on the subject, let's talk about the big news of yesterday and the whole week. And that's the Xbox Live price hike and reversal. Man, there's so much here to talk about. I think it's pretty interesting that they dropped this on a Friday. It's pretty telling of how they felt this announcement would go over, right? Would you agree with me on that?
Yep.
Because normally companies release PR stuff that they want to kind of fade away into the background and not get a lot of discussion and not really hit any news websites on Fridays because everybody's supposed to be going home, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, gamers, we never log off, you know? Friday is just another day to us. We're always playing games. So as soon as this information hit, which was, I believe, like 6 o'clock in the morning Pacific, would be like 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern, people were immediately pissed because, number one, it's an article that was credited to the Xbox Live Gold team. And I don't really think there's an actual Xbox Live Gold team in Microsoft. So the fact that they're crediting the article to a team instead of a singular person just kind of set the tone of the whole article completely off for me, right? And then the article talks about what Xbox Live is and all these things that they do, and they're prepping you for this price hike. And then they give you the price hike, and they completely mislead a lot of people. I saw so many people fall for this, Jez. So many people where I come out and I say, you know what? Doubling the price of Xbox Live Gold is a pretty bad move, right? But then people come to me and be like, Rand, it's $1. What are you talking about? It's $1. It's not that big of a deal. So to explain this, Microsoft raised or were planning on, because there's there's two parts to this whole story, is that in the original plan, they were going to raise the price of the monthly subscription to Xbox Live Gold from $9.99 to $10.99, $1, which, to be fair, isn't a big deal. You know, Netflix raises prices all the times. I have no problem with companies raising prices, to match inflation or what have you. Especially when it's like only $1 or a couple dollars. I don't have an issue with that. But I do have an issue with the doubling of your service. Who on earth? What company literally goes, by the way, our service is now doubled overnight? And we haven't even done anything to deserve it. Just, it was $60, now it's $120. I can't think of another service or another product out there that has ever done that. One day it's this price, and the next day it's literally double. Most companies always do it kind of in increments. Oh, it's $1 more expensive, or maybe $5 more expensive, or whatever. I've never seen the company have the balls to be like, by the way, it's now twice as expensive, and we haven't done anything, right? So it was $1 for the month, and then the 3-month subscription went from $25 to $29, $30. So it was a $5 jump, right? And that's what they were claiming in this article. And they completely just leave out the fact that this 6-month card went from $40 to $60. They were like, the increase is only $1 for 1 month and $3 for 3 months. Didn't even mention how much the price increased for the 6 months. And I was like, man, they really know how. That article was just like such a poorly communicated, poorly worded message to consumers, and Microsoft deserves all the backlash they got from it. You got any comments on how the article was worded, Jez? Or did I hit all the notes on that one?
Honestly, I didn't read the article until afterwards. I just sort of absorbed the information through, because what happened was I was already clocking off for the day when that stuff came out, and then it all came out. And then our news team grabbed it, and I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And they were explaining. And then they were like, "This has happened," and I was like, "What the hell? This doesn't make sense." And then when you go on PlayStation Plus, it says 12 months for $60, and then you go on Xbox Live, and it's like, so $60 for 6 months, and it's just like, what the hell? I don't get it. I don't get why a year of Xbox Live Gold is twice what you pay on PlayStation Plus. That doesn't make any sense. So I literally can't wrap my head around that. It's like you say, the $1 increase for the monthly sub, that makes total sense. Adjusting for inflation, it's like they said in the article, we haven't adjusted the price for Xbox Live Gold since forever. So then why did the monthly sub go up by so much? I'm not a mathematician, Rand, but the only logical explanation that people were coming to was they want to bully people into playing for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, because at that point it's kind of it's a total no-brainer to get Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, right?
Well, yeah, because when you compare the value of it, you have Game Pass Ultimate that's $180 a year, and now you just changed Gold from $60 a year to $120. It basically makes Game Pass Ultimate a more attractive value. But you didn't do anything to make Game Pass a more attractive value. You just made the value proposition of Gold worse. And because you made it look worse, Game Pass Ultimate looks better as an alternative. And I forgot to mention that I also think, and we talked about this in the podcast, I think they'd been planning this for a while. If you recall, last year, they got rid of the 12-month cards. 12-month cards on their own store at the Microsoft store. You can no longer get them. They were $60. They removed it last year, which prompted a lot of people to speculate, myself included, Jez as well, even people like Cole Eastwood, that Microsoft might be changing Xbox Live Gold in some manner. Flash forward to yesterday, and it was pretty apparent why they got rid of the 12-month card, because they didn't even want to mention how much the 6-month deal increased. They didn't want to put that in the article that increased $20. And you're sure as hell know that they didn't want to have a situation where it would be like, and 12-month cards are available for $120, because that would just put a spotlight on everything wrong with the price increase. And so with that information, this was something that they clearly have been thinking about for quite some time. And I mean, I believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody from Xbox is probably listening to this and be like, Rand, you're completely off base on this. But, I mean, there is a reason they got rid of the 12-month cards last year. And I think it was the prep for this. And, man, the backlash was incredibly strong. I haven't seen people go to town on something like this since the 2013, the DRM always online stuff. Like, it was just as strong. And it's unfortunate that gamers really didn't go to bat as strong for the price hike of $70 games, right? Sony, Activision, all these companies announced $70 games, and pretty much the video game community just accepted it and didn't bitch about it. But, Microsoft also is in a position of, they're not the market leader. They can't get away with stuff that maybe a Nintendo or a PlayStation can. And, they have to do everything right. Microsoft is in that position where, you had a terrible generation. There's no two words about it. And you need to do everything right. You needed to launch a system that was the most powerful, and they did, and the system that was the cheapest, and they did. But you needed to have constant PR to essentially wipe people's memories of what you tried to do with the Xbox One. And it seemed like they were doing good, even though people weren't happy with the Xbox Game Showcase, mainly because, of how it was presented with the CGI trailers and stuff. At least people were like, you know what? There's games coming. And that's something you really couldn't say for a couple years there during 2017, 2018. And then with the Bethesda acquisition, people were really starting to get excited, like, man, there's going to be a ton of games coming. And Microsoft really seemed to be turning around their reputation. And then this maneuver, this, piece that they wanted to do to flip Xbox Live Gold and make it, double, it just really reinforced the idea that maybe the people at Xbox, whoever was in charge of this, just is completely out of touch with gamers.
I think what the issue really is, Rand, is that Microsoft thinks of their subscriptions differently to the way we think of them. Because I think right now, the way Microsoft thinks of Xbox Live Gold is that it's actually Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Because in their mind, they are very aware of the fact you can convert Xbox Live Gold long-term subscriptions directly into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate at no additional price. But the problem is, next to nobody knows this. And I'm talking like normies here. Like, we all know this. And there's probably people listening to this podcast who don't know this. But if you have 6 months or 12 months of Xbox Live Gold, you can that is basically Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Right now, you can convert that directly into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for no additional price. So what Microsoft was probably thinking here is maybe, and I don't have this data, but this is my assumption, maybe most people pay month over month, right? And their thinking is, we've got to adjust this for inflation. We haven't adjusted this for 10 years. Most people are paying month over month. We have to adjust the price on this to meet inflation. But the problem is, in that case, what happens to Xbox what happens to Xbox Live Gold in the bigger subs for people who haven't yet converted? And then it starts to get a bit weird. I think, like, if Microsoft had just said, I don't even know. It's really strange because they've got themselves into a mess where they want to persuade people who are on Xbox Live Gold to move directly to Game Pass at no additional cost. You can basically get a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for the price of a year of Xbox Live Gold right now, and they want people to do that, but not enough people are aware that you can actually do that right now. And I think like they haven't emphasized that enough through their marketing or whatever. I think like what they maybe should have thought about doing, and I don't know, because this probably would have gotten pretty big backlash as well, is like maybe even I don't know. I mean, what can you do? It's all about that month. I think it's all about that monthly sub, because that's like if you are paying month over month, you're basically paying $120 anyway a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing it was mainly about sorting that out. But I don't know. I think it's to do with the fact that Game Pass, Live Gold long-term subs convert into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I think that's the main thing. If they were just like, maybe like, we're gonna automatically convert everyone on Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass at no additional cost, and that there would only be a month-over-month sub, would that have gone down differently?
It probably would have. I think a part of this is just like I mentioned, like the messaging of that article and everything surrounding it was as poor as you could possibly get. And when your direct competitor has a very similar service for the same price, and now you're double that, and that's my thing. Like Xbox Live hasn't, like, what did Xbox Live do to deserve a double price, going from 60 to 120? Can anybody in chat tell me what did they deserve being like, well, we were $60, now we're $120? Did they add any new features? Anything that I've like glossed over? I mean, Xbox Live has virtually been the same, at least consumer facing, for the past decade. I know people at Xbox probably thinking, well, we added a whole bunch of different servers on the back end, and like, that's great, and I understand that. But like consumer facing, Xbox Live has basically been the same. So to see you kind of come out and try to justify in whatever ways you try to, like security and all this BS stuff, being like, now we need to be twice as much. It's like, no, you haven't done anything to deserve that. And if it was just like, by the way, guys, you know what? The price is $1 more per month, and instead of $60, it's now $65 per year, people would have accepted it and be like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. Even though it would have been more expensive than PlayStation, at least you could be like, okay, whatever. Like, it's five extra dollars a year. I can live with that, you know? But like twice as much? It's like you haven't done anything to deserve that money. I don't understand like what you're trying to get away with at this point. And you knew the people at Xbox knew they screwed up, because nobody tweeted at all throughout the whole day. Nobody, right? If you go and look, nobody from Xbox said a word, because they knew as soon as they say something, they would be like, what's going on, right? And I would imagine there was a lot of frantic emails being sent. People at Xbox who were against this being like, what are you guys doing? You know, emailing Phil and like, that's the other thing I want to know. It's like, and we're going to transition into their reversal, is how did we come to this point? And since we're going to get to the reversal, it's like that night at 11 o'clock, they decided to put out a tweet, and suddenly all the Xbox accounts are tweeting again at the same time. Guess what, guys? You know how we were about to raise your price by double per year? In a pandemic, nonetheless, Jez, because you made that point in a tweet, and I made that point in an article, or in my video, basically saying they're doubling the price of gold during a time of a pandemic, when Microsoft has literally made videos, and Phil Spencer's been on record talking about how gaming brings everybody together. And they still went ahead and tried to do it.
Yeah, I think this comes down to like a disconnect between how they perceive the subscriptions and how we perceive it. From our end, we're like hardcore users, right? Everyone listening to this show is a hardcore Xbox gamer. A lot of these people are probably on 6 or 12-month subscriptions to Xbox Game Pass already, and before then they were probably on 12-month subscriptions to Xbox Live Gold. the reality is that probably most people subscribe month over month, and they're already paying $120 anyway. So, like, in reality, the vast majority of people were not going to be affected by this change. Like, most people would have just been paying $1 extra a month, and then the rest of the people were already on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But the problem when you come down to it is it's the messaging, right? Because the way it looked was that the year-over-year subscription was now twice as expensive as Sony's equivalent offering for no reason. But to Microsoft, they're thinking, well, this is our least popular subscription anyway, so nobody's going to care about it. And it's kind of like, well, we didn't think of it that way. When I saw that, I immediately just thought, wow, that really sucks for people who are struggling in a pandemic. You know, I didn't even think of like any of this stuff until we did the podcast that, well, probably most people are on the monthly sub anyway. And, you know, most new users probably go straight into Game Pass anyway. But it's just awfully bad optics when you look at it from a sort of macrocosmic view. And it's like Fortnite on Xbox costs $120 a year now. And it's $0 on PlayStation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
all those sorts of like questions started to come up, because the reality is, for most people, Xbox Live Gold is already $120 a month because they're probably paying the month-over-month subscription. But Microsoft didn't want to share that fact with us. So like, and that might not even be true. But that is my assumption, because like I say, it wasn't about doubling the price of the month-over-month. It was about bringing it up by $1. And that's the one that was adjusted for inflation. The year-over-year subscription was not adjusted for inflation at all. It was doubled. So, like, that's to do with bringing it in line with their conversion to Game Pass Ultimate subscription, you know. But it was just such a mess, and such weird messaging and stuff.
Were you surprised by the backlash and how strong it was, and how pretty much everybody, like, there were some people on the fringe being like, not that big of a deal, it's only 40 cents per day, you know, get another job and you can easily pay for it, things go up in time, like, you know, people trying to damage control the raise price. Were you surprised by any of this at all?
No, I was like, I mean, I didn't see that much damage controlling on my feed. But I wasn't surprised by the backlash to it, because when you look at it on paper, it is what they were saying was you have to pay $120 a year to play Fortnite on our console, whereas on Sony's console you pay $0. That's literally what they were telling us, you know. And then like Sony's PlayStation Plus website has a big banner that says $60 for a year. And then Microsoft's has a big banner that said $60 for 6 months. It's like, how do you justify that price disparity? How do you justify not offering the same price tier as Sony? It was just really poorly thought out, like almost like rushed. And I'm guessing that like it is some sort of confusing quasi issue when it comes to that Xbox Game Pass upgrade deal that they do. That they probably like, because they did push that in the article as well.
They did.
Like you can,
and we should probably explain that. If you don't have Xbox Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate, if you're currently on Xbox Live Gold and you have some time left, so say 5 months, and if you convert to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, it'll give you 5 months of Ultimate. So basically what I did a couple years ago was I bought 2 years of Live Gold to have 3 years of Xbox Live Gold, and I transferred that to Game Pass Ultimate. It gave me 3 years of Game Pass Ultimate. They actually mentioned that in the article as a way to be like, oh, if you don't like this, then you can transfer to Game Pass Ultimate, which is a a better deal, right? Not only do you get Xbox Live Gold, but you get free games. Why wouldn't you want to be in this service? You know, why would you want to pay $120 a year for Gold when you could pay $180 and actually get games? So yeah, they definitely did mention that in the article for sure. But
Yeah, but they like it's still confusing and it's almost like arcane. You know, it's not a simple thing to understand. If you don't know what Game Pass is, I'm talking about normies here. Like, it's kind of like it's this whole strange thing. Like, wait, I convert this subscription to another subscription. What do I get from this subscription? You know, it's not as easy to understand as $120 to play Fortnite on Xbox, $0 to play Fortnite on PlayStation. The messaging was just awful. Like, it was just terrible. And all I could think about, like, when you dig into the details, it's not that bad. Like, everyone who was angry weren't going to get a price increase anyway, because Microsoft said they were grandfathered on whatever they're paying today. It was only going to affect new customers. So really, everyone was angry for the new customers. They were angry for the way this makes Xbox look. And they were angry over the fact that, like, well, they've basically said to new users, if you want to buy an Xbox for your kids so they can play Fortnite, Rocket League, and Roblox, you know, it's $120 a year on top of the cost of the console. Whereas on PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, you can play Fortnite for $0. So, like, it just sort of...
it makes the Xbox Series S pointless. Because
Yeah,
you have this system that's
every
300.
layer of the announcement was bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But Microsoft decided to change course, like I said, and they all the accounts started tweeting at once by saying, "Hey, we did you wrong." What exactly did they say? Do you have the tweet, Jez, by chance? The Xbox tweet.
What when they reversed?
When they
course?
reversed it, just so we can read it. Like,
Yeah,
hey guys, we know we did you wrong. Yeah, well, you know, did any double?
Today was not great. We always try to do our best for you, and today we missed the mark. We hear you, and we're reversing our Xbox Live Gold pricing updates to bring Xbox Live more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. We'll be removing gold requirements for free-to-play games. We're starting work on that immediately, and we'll have updates in the coming months. Details. And then they updated the Xbox Live Gold article, which, by the way, I always think this is funny because as a blogger, we do this. Like, on Windows Central, when we push a crappy article that's sponsored, like for some sponsored, you know, VPN or something like that, we don't put any author's name on it because it makes us look bad. You know, we don't like Jez Corden wrote a sponsorship deal. And I don't write any of the sponsored articles, but like nobody wants that byline on a sponsored article. And I did find it funny that the Xbox Live Gold changes article is authored by Xbox Live Gold team. Like nobody wanted to own that change.
Nobody did.
Nobody wanted to own it. There was no byline on that article because nobody wanted to own it because they knew it was a bad idea. Like, I don't know. Like, man, I don't know. So they must have known, man. Like the fact there's no byline on the article is like an admission of guilt. But
pretty much. I need to get to a bunch of these super chats before we continue on, Jez.
Sure.
So we have one here for Juniper that says this was definitely a Microsoft proper decision and not an Xbox decision. Microsoft needs to keep their hands off and trust their team. So I guess that comes down to, let me ask you, whose decision do you think this was? Phil's? Head of Xbox Live? You know, like if you're saying it's above Phil, then you're talking about Satya Nadella or Amy Hood. I think this was an Xbox decision. I just don't know whose decision it was. I would say Phil was aware of the decision. I don't know if he was the one who was like, we need to do this, or if it was someone else. But I think it was definitely an Xbox decision. What do you think?
Yeah, I think like, I don't know. I want to say it was an Xbox decision, and they must have like just got bogged down in the details over converting Xbox Live Gold and stuff like that to Game Pass and getting all confused over their whole subscription thing. That's why like part of me just thinks like screw it, man. Just rip the band-aid off. Get rid of Xbox Live Gold, man. Just do
Hmm.
it. Go crazy. Go crazy, But because it'd do away with all this confusion. We have so much confusion over like the different subscriptions Xbox Live offers now, and what each of them do. We've got like Game Pass, Xbox Live Gold, and you got Game Pass Ultimate, and like you got Game Pass for PC, which is a separate library, and then XCloud has its own library, and Game Pass for console has its own library. It's really annoying, man. When I get like an email through from Xbox PR, and it's like, these are the Game Pass updates for this week, and it's like Game Pass for Android, and then Game Pass for PC, and then Game Pass for this, and Game Pass for that, and then on top of that, you've even got things like Xbox Play Anywhere, which like nobody talks about anymore, but it still exists. Like there's still games that are Xbox Play Anywhere and still have cloud saves that transfer, save data across PC and console, and I still use it sometimes. But it's there's this whole sort of it's just so Microsoft, man. All this confusion over naming and like Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Cloud Gaming, like weird brand names and clunky systems and stuff like that. Like I genuinely believe like there's no one at Microsoft sitting there thinking, how can we screw over the users today? Like everything they do is like well intentioned, and then Microsoft just they're kind of just socially awkward, man.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft is a socially awkward corporation. Like if imagine like all the corporations are a party, right? You got Sony, who's like the cool kid with shades on, and like everyone wants to talk to them, and then like I don't know, like Nintendo's like a cool kid too, and then like sort of Xbox is sort of like in the corner being awkward and trying to like be shying away sometimes, and like tripping over his shoelace and stuff like that. I don't know. But Xbox is just always Microsoft in general has just always been like that, really awkward and doesn't like understand people, and I think this is what this boils down to is like a disparity between the way they perceive their subscriptions and the way the public perceives their prescriptions.
Yeah.
Subscriptions, not prescriptions.
Dead Planet says Microsoft is making first place moves while being in third. Zero Crimson says I would eliminate Live and do a tiered Game Pass system and do a family sharing within Game Pass and online access. Well, family game plan is something that needs to come back because like let's imagine they went through with that price hike and it was $120 a year, and if you have multiple like kids in the house on multiple consoles, instead of it being 60 for the whole year, now you're talking 120, and if you have multiple consoles with kids, now it's like 200, like 240. I think Colt was saying like if he wanted it would have cost him like $240, and I saw my buddy Beard on Twitter say it would cost him like 480 to have his family online or whatever, which is absolutely ridiculous. So a family plan has to come at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff like that. Like I know like a Game Pass family plan is more complicated because publishers it's publishers content at the end of the day. Um and it's a bit weird, but at least in the case of Xbox Live Gold, there needs to be a family plan. Like it's just, I mean, I know like you can log in and then like give your kids access, but what if you've got like I don't know 10 kids or something? You're gonna buy each one of them Xbox Live Gold and then sign into each of their consoles individually and not be able to play yourself. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's sort of like it's sort of it really does speak to how archaic Xbox Live Gold is. Like it comes from an era where like subscription services were not commonplace. Like Xbox Live Gold was among the first subscription services for an online sort of service you could pay for. Like it was right there with like Final Fantasy 11 and like the old MMOs and stuff like that. It was one of the first things you could subscribe to online. And like nowadays we've got like everything as a subscription. Like I literally got an email today, Rand, to subscribe to a cheese company and get free samples of cheese every month with a subscription. Everything has a subscription now. But like they've all got like family plans and sharing features, and like Disney Plus has its whole like group viewing thing, and like everyone can like view what you're watching across the internet and stuff, and all be signed into the same account. Like everyone shares their Netflix and Disney Plus stuff, with their family, and you just can't do that in Xbox. And part of it is because it's such an old structure that kind of needs to be dismantled, and I think it will be dismantled. It's just
Right.
a matter of time.
Um, let's see. Dead Planet also says I can see upping the price of the service once Game Pass is dropping big games every other month, but 3 months after launching zero exclusives. Uh, Funchito says, do you think Age of Empires series will finally come to the console? Ina Gilbert, the Xbox France boss, said not long ago that it's unlikely. Jez, what do you think? Age of Empires coming to console with either controller or keyboard and mouse support?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Age of Empires coming to console at some point with either controller or keyboard and mouse support?
See, that's a tough one, man, because again, it's another one of those sort of like, is it even worth doing? Like, are there enough people on Xbox that would play exclusively with mouse and keyboard? Because Age of Empires is not a game that you'll be able to play with a controller. There's no way they can make controller controls for that game without dumbing down the game. And this is what happened with Halo Wars. If you dumb down an RTS players don't play it. And that's what Halo Wars just never. Halo Wars could never take off, even with the Halo brand behind it. It was too simplistic for most hardcore RTS players, and that's just the facts, So like, you have to ask yourself if Microsoft would bother to port Age of Empires to Xbox when the vast majority of people don't have a mouse and keyboard hooked up to their console. I would like to hope that they would do it as like the first game, as an experiment, because if you are going to bring these features to your console, you kind of have to invest in it to get people to use it. But I also think that like Microsoft is this sort of telemetry driven company, and sometimes they just assume because nobody's doing it now that nobody would ever do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to say that I hope they would do it, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it, I guess.
Mahler says people can still buy 12 months on Amazon for $60. They wanted to curb the 3-year cheap conversion of Game Pass Ultimate is my guess. I don't know if they wanted to curb that, considering they basically tell you to do that in the article. They're literally like, by the way, it converts 1-to-1, so stock up, wink, wink. But what he says is true. You can buy 12 months on Amazon. Well, in the reversal, they are going to be keeping the retail cards for 12 months. They aren't going to be bringing them back to the Xbox store. So, Matador says, Rand, I wouldn't be surprised if some Xbox users switch to PlayStation after this. Now they're looking at Microsoft very suspect and maybe broke trust as well. For some, possibly, yeah. That's the thing about this decision that just didn't sit well with me. It's like nobody was going to like this, and you're in the process of trying to restore confidence among gamers. Like the memes being Xbox has no games, and while you have a ton of studios now, like 23 teams or 23 devs and 38 studios, we haven't seen any of those games from any of those new studios launch yet. So we don't know if Matt Booty is really good at his job at running Xbox Game Studios. So it's kind of, it's like you need to be absolutely perfect, and this price hike thing was just so out of touch, so uncharacteristic of what Xbox is trying to be, that it really reminded me of a Don Matrick led Xbox, of these horrible anti-consumer, out of touch philosophies and initiatives that they were trying to do. And I just have to question, like, how did we even get to that point? Like, how do you sit there and just see this PR come, across your desk and be like, yeah, this is perfectly fine, and not realize the potential backlash you are about to face because of it? Maybe some people being like, they tried to do this once, I can't trust them, I'm gone. Maybe, but for me, this is also a sign of how Xbox listens. And that's the other big takeaway from all this, is like Microsoft really backtracked immediately, and it was because of people like Jez tweeting about it, people like Colt Eastwood, and everybody on Xbox fans being respectful and being like, this isn't the right thing to do. Now, I made a video, but I'm not going to credit myself for helping Microsoft change their mind. Like I don't have that I don't have that big of an ego. I'm not going to say that people at Xbox watched my video and was like, Rand's got a point. We shouldn't be doing this. Like I'm just a nobody. I'm just, as Dealer Gaming says, I'm just an asshole with a microphone. But they do listen. I mean, they are Xbox is
with a microphone, man.
I'm just an asshole with a microphone, but Xbox people are always listening to people's comments and feedback all across social media, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram or Twitter or Insider Hubs and Reddit. Like they want to know what you think, and this was a clear example of our consumer base is really unhappy with this move. We need to basically walk back on this, and it was great that they did, but the fight isn't over. You want to know why the fight isn't over, Jez?
Why?
Because we're still at this point where there's not parity between all of Microsoft's services and Xbox. And I said it at the end of my video today. Basically, multiplayer for consoles needs to go away so it can be on par with what Microsoft offers on the PC. I still don't think it's right. I still don't think it's right that a PC user can play Sea of Thieves and Gears 5 and all the Microsoft first-party games and even the third-party games that have multiplayer, play it for free using an Xbox app, using Party Chat to talk to people on Xbox Live, all for no additional cost, while yet I'm on the console. And because I'm a console user, I have to pay to play Sea of Thieves and Gears and all the games online. I have to pay for Xbox Live Gold to talk to my friends on the service. So I think
it's not that simple, man.
I know it's not that simple. I know it is, but I still look at the disparity between the two, and I understand why it has to be that way because PC users were never going to accept being able to pay for it. But I do think it's one of those things that really sticks out. It really is just.
What it is it's the subsidization of the hardware. It's like the consoles that we get have wafer thin margins, whereas the PC components you buy don't have wafer thin margins. They're sold for high profits, So like your graphics cards and your stuff like that you pay for, they aren't being subsidized by any form of subscription, which is why they cost more, which is why PC gaming is more expensive upfront than console gaming. And you could argue that like even over time in some ways, because like you're having to do your upgrades and all that sort of stuff, to keep up. But that's the experience you get with PC. You pay more upfront, and then you don't have to pay for Xbox Live because it's not subsidized by a subscription. Whereas Xbox consoles and PlayStation consoles and Nintendo even, they're more like printers where they're sold with no margins and they make the money back on software and services. Kind of like a printer is sold for wafer thin margins, and then they make the money back selling you proprietary ink cartridges, and stuff like that, or paper and stuff like that. That's how HP makes money on printers. It's not through the hardware, it's through selling you the ink and selling you subscription. You can subscribe to ink now as well. I don't know if you're aware of this.
You can subscribe to literally everything. It's not a shocker. It's not shocking.
So like HP has an ink pass. You subscribe to HP ink pass, and you get like ink every month or whatever. Or like the printer detects when you've run out, and they just send you some more in the post. So like that's how they make their money back. And like the console gaming is the same way. Like the subscriptions factored into the cost of the console. But the problem is it's a side effect of Microsoft merging Windows with Xbox, is that these worlds are becoming increasingly blurred and the worlds are colliding, and it started to become annoying. If you're playing Sea of Thieves and you get wrecked by a dude who's doing like 360 no scopes with a 18,000 DPI mouse, you know, and he's jumping off the mast and does 360 no scope and one shot you. Extreme example, maybe, but it's kind of like it just sort of rubs sea salt in the wound. The fact that like he's on Xbox Live playing against console players with a mouse and keyboard and a 300 hertz display, and he's kicking your ass, and also he doesn't have to pay monthly for it as well. It's just kind of weird, you know. It feels like Xbox Live was, we paid for the experience back then. We paid for like, we don't have any cheaters. We don't have to deal with cheaters because it's a closed platform and you can't like hack the console as easily as you can on PC.
Well, you got to deal with cheaters if you play a game on a PC crossplay like Warzone. There's cheaters on that.
Well, well, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
the lines are becoming blurred now, and like we used to pay for that sort of that polished experience of a level playing field where everyone was on console, nobody was using a keyboard and mouse, nobody could hack, and now that's gone. You know, it's weird.
Yeah. So Phenomenal says, I'm afraid prospective customers will remember this attempt to increase the price when considering whether to get a PS5 or an Xbox. Microsoft screwed up. Face says, did you see Call of Duty and Xbox Legends Twitter account making fun of Xbox Live Gold price hike on free-to-play games? I believe those were like the Intel Twitter accounts, not the official ones. It was like Call of Duty, like it was like Charlie Intel and Apex Legends Intel. It wasn't the official Twitter accounts as far as I saw. Chase says
I was on official accounts.
Oh, the official accounts, like Activision was making fun of Xbox and
No. I said like people think Charlie Intel is official because they're verified. They ain't official.
Yeah, they're not official. Chase says it was all done. So after we get the impression that they listen to us, they all get from me is to renew my Game Pass subscription. Matt Dos Santos says in Brazil, gold is more than double of PS Plus. Zero Crimson says, Rand, you're awesome. Stop bashing yourself. Who cares if they listen to you? You got everyone here that supports you. Thank you. And thank you for everybody watching who's here with us supporting the podcast and the channel. I just mean like I don't think I'm some hot YouTube superstar that has the ears of people at Xbox and what I say matters. You know what I mean? I don't have an ego that large like you would imagine some other people do. But yeah, we're all caught up with the super chats. So let's continue on with the discussion. Shout out to Kid Smooth. I see the best spot in the chat. Jez, do you think this was a plan by Xbox? Essentially, is what people were saying.
What?
Remember conspiracy? Because I saw you tweet about it. That this was all a plan. That Microsoft printed out 6-month cards for $60 and sent them out to retailers, and then made this announcement only so that they could look better a few hours later. Was this a conspiracy? Was this all just planned from the get-go?
No. Man, like I've actually seen emails from in-game GameStop internal emails to their employees explaining what was going on, and it's no. Like, why would they do this? Like, what did they gain from this? For a few hours, it felt like the curtain had been peeled back, and we got this sort of view of a sort of, the Microsoft they don't want us to see. The Microsoft that's like about money. The Microsoft that's about gouging you out of your cash and stuff like that. For a few hours, we got to see that, and then they reversed tack or whatever. It's kind of like, why would they do that? Like that's not a good plan. If that was planned, it's not a good one. No,
it's definitely not a good one. Shout out to Adian Pertel for becoming the newest member. Really appreciate it, man, and enjoy the emotes. I just kind of find like the idea of anything that goes wrong or whatever being some sort of conspiracy of like, oh, they planned this. It's like, come on, dude. They printed out new cards. They sent the new cards out to retailers. This wasn't just some ploy to make Xbox look good. Like, they had the worst PR that they've had since 2013. to the point where it forced them to work late into Friday coming up with the message. It's a PR thing that they did Friday that they had to, basically reverse at midnight Eastern. Of course it wasn't planned. But I guess I understand. Yeah, what's up?
I just need the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. So of course it wasn't planned. Obviously I think people want to believe it's planned, that there's some 4D chess going on here. Like, oh, Xbox is so smart. They're going to get people so pissed off at them. And then, hey, Xbox is even better than it was before, right? Like, they want to believe that instead of the simple truth that, no, this has been planned. It was been planned for quite some time. And yes, this probably means somebody at Xbox is out of touch with what people want from Xbox Live Gold, and thought that maybe they could sneak this by and that people wouldn't care and wouldn't raise that much of an issue. And you know what? Some people probably, and if we all reacted like those people that were like, this isn't a big deal. The funny thing is there's a lot of, and this goes for PlayStation fans as well, and Nintendo fans, and any sort of extreme fans of anything, really. It's not just beholden or strictly related to Xbox. But there's always a group of fans on any fandom that will damage control no matter what. Where like Xbox or PlayStation could basically take a giant dump on a plate and be like, here, have this. And that person would eat it and be like, it's the best thing I've ever had in my life. Tastes great. You know who those people are. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen them on social media for every sort of thing, whether it's even sports teams. There's always that segment of the fan base of any fandom that will never, ever criticize their favorite company or player or team or anything. And it's always pathetic. I just look at it as pathetic. Completely. And that's not me. I've always been like, you know what? I'll criticize Xbox when they need it, But I'm largely always positive about the direction the brand is heading in, right? I think Xbox is gonna have their best generation, with all the studios they have, and with Game Pass being the way it is. Like, I've never been more excited, but at the same time, as soon as I saw that press release with the double the price, I was like, no, this needs to be called out. Like, this does not sit with me. I was very disappointed that Xbox tried getting that over everybody yesterday. I was incredibly disappointed. And it doesn't even really affect me. I have Game Pass Ultimate. I'm stocked up for the next 3 years. I just kind of look at it as like, what are you trying to do here? Like, how are new users going to be drawn to the Xbox ecosystem when the Xbox Series S at $300 is essentially a machine that costs $420 a year, because you need to buy Xbox Live Gold to use it to play online. And if somebody just wants to play Fortnite or any of those free-to-play games, it's now more expensive than it is over on PlayStation. Like, that's not a good look whatsoever. So you always got to be vigilant. Keep in mind that even though some of these people at Xbox are your friends and they're nice guys, like the corporation, they're not your friend. The corporation, like they view you as a wallet. You're just money to them, and they want to stick a vacuum in your wallet and suck it out. And they were just hoping that people wouldn't rise up and make their voices heard, and that this could pass, and that they could make more money, by raising the price and getting people to switch to Game Pass, right? I mean, that's all it is. Just keep that in mind. The corporations aren't your friends, and you got to call out these sort of practices all over the place. And I'll continue to do that with Xbox whenever I feel they have done something wrong. And I know some people won't like that, and they'll definitely unsubscribe, or they're definitely unfollow on Twitter or whatever, and it's like, good, I don't want you here anyways. Unsubscribe, unfollow. I don't really care if my, number on one of my social media pages goes down. Like, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I'm just going to stay truthful to myself. And I had to say something about it, right? I mean, I talk about Xbox and I talk about how good the platform I think it is. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say, if I just sat there with my head in the sand and didn't say anything whatsoever. and just hope it just went away, you know. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much. I mean, there's so much to this whole thing, and if they didn't remove the price hike, if they didn't walk back on it, it would have been a dark cloud hanging over the brand for quite some time. Like anytime, like imagine the price hike didn't get removed, and Microsoft finally closes the Bethesda deal. And you know what? Hey, all the exclusives, all the games are going to be exclusive moving forward, which is what I think is going to happen, but we don't know yet. And that's what a lot of people hope will happen. But if I would have made a video talking about that, I'm sure a lot of people would just be thinking in their back of the mind, yeah, that's great, but they're charging $120 for Xbox Live. Why aren't you talking about that? And it's like, I did talk about that. But it would have been on people's minds for so long, just like how the DRM and all that stuff with the Xbox One was on people's minds for almost the entire generation, even though it was never implemented. Even though when you picked up the Xbox One, it didn't have the always online, it didn't have the DRM. It was just always like, well, they tried doing this to us once. What are they going to try to do to us again? And that's the thing that I really do think, even though they switched on us and they reversed it, now people are going to be in the back of their minds that Microsoft can now just kind of pull this maneuver at any point in time. And you need to always, I'm just happy, I guess, to say that people stood up, and the vast majority of gamers and Xbox fans were like, this isn't right, need to fix this. So, I'm just happy with that. And finally, free to play. It's quite okay, Jez. And free to play games are finally free.
Yes, they are.
And I believe. What were you doing?
I was choking for some reason. I don't know. Like my throat just randomly closed up then, and I had to go and cough for like ages.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice.
It still doesn't feel right. Like I don't know what's going on. It's very strange.
Do you need to go? If you need to go, we can just end the show so you can go, rest or whatever.
I don't know, man. That is really annoying while you're doing like a live show. So sorry about that, everyone. My throat just randomly decided to. I don't know if I've like got something stuck in my throat or something like that. It's really, really strange. Really strange.
Well, hopefully you're good. I was just gonna say, like, now free to play games officially free. Microsoft included that in the announcement, which I think was also one of those things where they had to. It was like, okay, Microsoft is gonna walk back the announcement and they say, we're sorry, we aren't gonna do that to you, but they came with additional news of free to play games are now free. Although it's obviously something that's not ready to go yet because they said they'll have more information in the coming months. I think this was always in the plan, and I'm not saying I knew this was going to happen. I kind of thought it would because it made a lot of sense. I just couldn't imagine a scenario where Halo Infinite releases and you still have to pay for Xbox Live. So I thought it would be removed before then. I figured the best time to announce it would probably be during some E3 gaming event where they reveal Halo Infinite. Where they reveal, if you need to mute your mic, mute your mic.
I'm really sorry, man. I thought I was muted then.
Oh, okay.
I ain't doing so good.
Well, just jump out.
Sorry, guys.
Just I'll end the show. Just jump out, Jez. It's fine. So
hang on. I got some water now. Let's see if this helps.
So I thought they would announce that the free to play stuff would go away during the reveal of Halo Infinite's gameplay, multiplayer gameplay. That is. That's when I felt they'd make the announcement. But obviously they had to make it right with gamers, and they're like, we can't just say we're not doing it anymore, so we have to give them something else. So yeah, Commander Shepard says we still love you, Jez. Feel better and drink lots of water. Yeah, Jez isn't feeling so good, so let's see how he feels after he drinks some water. Otherwise, we'll probably have to end the show there. But we talked about pretty much everything I really wanted to talk about. Microsoft.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to dip, man.
All right. Let me know. Let me.
Really sorry, guys.
Yeah, well wishes to Jez. Hopefully he feels better because he sounds pretty bad right now. Get some water, Jez, and
I got
DM me later.
you. Thanks.
Let me know. Let me know if you're okay. Okay, later.
I will do. Sorry, guys. I'm really sorry about this. I have no idea what's going on, but I will. I'll let you know later.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
So yeah, with all that said, thanks for being here. Make sure you wish Jez, on Twitter, being like, man, I hope you feel good, because it doesn't sound really good right now. Like, to be honest, like he sounds like something's going on with his throat. So yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Sorry we couldn't go a little bit longer, but obviously things happen. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. And we will be back next week to talk more about Xbox and everything that happens in the gaming industry. So have a good one, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week.